Good morning, everybody. So, as we know already, we are studying the types of asexual methods. So, in that already we finished the fission and as well as budding. So, if we take the fission, we are having again fission is two types. So, the first one is binary fission, and the second one is what, everybody? Multiple fission. Am I right? So, multiple fission. And if you take the binary fission, what is the examples we studied, everyone? Binary fission means we have studied examples of, yes, please.
Amoeba.
Amoeba. Next one, all of you. Paramecium. Next one, Leishmania. And as well as some bacteria. So everything they will show binary fission on. And if you take the multiple fission, so there is organisms. So mainly we have studied what is that? Plasmodium. So which will causes a disease called as, what is the disease it will cause, everybody? Yes, please. Malaria. So
Malaria.
fever, it will causes a fever. So that is what we used to call as malaria. So malarial parasite, so which will produce malarial disease. So that is what we studied. And Leishmania will cause a disease called as, what is the disease name, everybody? Kala Azar, which is known as, what is that? All of you? Black fever. Okay. So these are the main important thing which we have already studied in last class. So now in today's class, we are going to continue the third type of reproductive method, asexual reproductive method. That is what spore formation. So now, again here also same thing. Spore formation also only suitable conditions. So as we know that like multiple fission, if you notice it, only suitable conditions the cyst will break and all the cells, that is what all the new organisms, they will be spreading outside. Am I right or wrong, everybody? So when the spore formation, that multiple fissions cyst will break, everybody, it will attain the suitable conditions. So what is the suitable conditions, anyone? Like a proper temperature, proper amount of water, or pressure, whatever it is, you can take. So here also same thing. So when it will get the favorable conditions or suitable conditions only, so what will happen? The spore formation, like the new organisms will come out. So that is what we are going to study now. So the third type of reproductive method, so please all of you keep heading, spore formation. So as soon as if you heard a word called as spore formation, so immediately remember the best example for this one is bread mold. So bread mold is the most popular example for spore formation, which is actually a fungus family. So what fungus actually it is? A Rhizopus fungus. Name is Rhizopus fungus. Please have a glass. So that is the most, at least have the importance, we need to know it. So now if you notice even, so with the help of this, we used to make even one of the most important antibiotic drug also. So that is also we'll discuss. So if you notice it here, this reproduction by spore formation takes place in plants alone. Okay. So if you take the plants, this is what one of the spore formation. Spore formation is one of the reproductive technique. So here what will happen in spore formation? The parent plant produces hundreds of microscopic reproductive units. So that is only we used to call it as spores. So all of you write it. In spore formation, the parent plant produces hundreds of microscopic reproductive units. So this reproductive units only we used to called as what? Everybody? We used to call as spores. Do you understand? So now, when these spores, for example, a small spores will form. So inside you can notice it. So they'll be having hundreds of spores. So they'll be present it. So when they will be bursting means like a small flowers you can see. So when they'll be bursting means when they will get the favorable conditions. So what is the favorable conditions? Like if you get a damp air, like moisture air, so damp and warm conditions. So if these kind of conditions will favorable, like atmosphere is favorable to them for their production, so they will start producing the new plants. So that is what is called as spore formation. First, they will form the small units. That is what hundreds of small microscopic reproductive units, which we used to call as spores. So now the spore case of the plant, it will start burst, then the spores will spread into the air, and then this they will be whenever suitable conditions will come, that's favorable conditions will come, they will start producing into new plants. So as it is spreading into the air, that is why it is called as, we can say, airborne spores. We can say it is even the plants will be started spreading from one place to another place through help of the air only. So that is why these airborne spores land on the food or the soil or whatever it is where they will get the damp air. So for example, if you're having a bread in our home, you just expose to the atmosphere 2 days. After 2 days, you can see that bread mold will start growing on the slice of a bread. Have you all experienced it anytime? Anybody? If you forget to keep tightly, the bread is exposed to atmosphere outside. Have you all noticed that the fungus is growing? Anybody? We used to call it as a bread mold. All of you? So definitely from the childhood, at least one time you might be notice it. So that is what it is actually. So rhizopus fungus will start actually growing on the bread. That is only we used to call it as bread mold. So most of us we used to experience this one. Even just 2 days, if you expose the bread to the atmosphere, so bread mold will start growing it. So how it will be formed means, so already in our atmosphere, these reproductive cells are present. So whenever they will get this kind of food or something, so automatically they will lie on it because they will start spreading through the air, airborne spores. That is what we can say. So they will start producing, turn up into new plants. So most of the fungi, bacteria, and non-flowering plants like fence, mosses, they will reproduce by this spore formation only. So that is why you can see the common bread mold is the fungus plant where we can see this spore formation is the one of the most suitable method for reproducing the new kind of organisms. So that is only we used to call it as rhizopus fungus. So now common bread mold is reproduced by the method of this spore formation only. So let us see what will happen in spore formation. The parent plant will produce the hundreds of microscopic reproductive units. That is what we used to call it as what, guys, everybody? We used to say spores. So right, when the spores, when the spore case of the plant, when the spore case of the plant burst, then the spores spread into the air. Then the spores spread into air. When these airborne spores, when these airborne spores land on food or soil under favorable conditions. under favorable conditions like damp air, damp and warm air, warm conditions, damp and warm conditions, they will germinate and produce into, they will germinate, and produce new plants. So you can take examples. So many examples you can take. The most popular example is bread mold or Rhizopus fungus. So bread mold is actually fungus plant. So you can take most of the non-flowering plants. They will undergo this only. So you can take the examples like Rhizopus. Next you can take mucar. You can take non-flowering plants. Non-flowering plants such as fen plants, mosses plants, they will produce by this only. So these are the examples of spore formation. The plants which will choose the reproductive technique for further growing is spore formation. Now let us see bread mold, how it will be happen and what is the way it is growing and all. Even you can see in our book, you will be finding. So this is the common bread mold structure. This is actually a plant, a fungus plant. It will reproduce by forming the spores. So this is how the bread mold will be there if you have seen the microscopic structure. So you can see the tiny spores of bread mold are almost always present in the air. If you see in our surroundings, always the bread, our atmosphere contains these tiny spores. So if you expose the bread piece to the atmosphere, today you keep and see after 2 days, Sunday you can see your bread is full of bread mold. Completely it will be fungus formed. So that much fastly it will be because already our atmosphere is full of these spores. So now what will happen? If you just you can see always they will be present in the air. Just if you expose this slice of a blood just for a few days, 1 or 2 days, then the spores of bread mold plant present in air, they will settle on this moist bread. But actually, like atmosphere should be very humid and warm temperature. So you can see they germinate to form a fungus plants. Now these bread mold plants, first to form new fungus plant, how they will be forming means they will look like a white, like cotton, like you can see that the bloods will be. So they will form into like this hundreds of microscopic spores will be forming inside. So and they'll be having a protective layer. You can see they'll be surrounding by the protective layer. So that is what we used to call as sporangium. So now when it will be breaks, when it will be burst means, so whenever they will get the suitable, favorable conditions, so these spore case will be bursting and this all the spores will be spreading. You can see the spores will being dispersed into air and they will start flying. So now again they will be finding the favorable conditions. So then they will start settling down, either the bread, like that's what food or soil. So soil also they will be growing or the food also they will be growing, but when they will get the suitable conditions only. So if you see the first, when the spore, this rhizopus is growing, the rhizopus is growing on the bread, it will be looks like a white color first one. First time, if you should notice it after a few days, it will be looks like a white cotton. Okay, cottony colors it will be. So now you can see after a few days, slowly you can see it will turn up into the black colors. So once it will be fully grown up, it will be turned up into black. So if you notice if you observe the surface of this sliced bread through the magnifying glass, with the help of magnifying glass, then the bread mold plant growing on it, it will be clearly appears to us. So exactly like this, it will be growing. So how you can notice even if you're having a magnifying glass in our home, you can, or else you can start keeping the bread today and Monday you can go to the lab and you can notice it. So the common bread mold plant consists of main fine and thread-like projections. The thread-like projections only we used to call. What is that called as? Everybody? Hyphae. So these all the things, the thread-like projections we used to call as hyphaes. And you can see this hyphae and the thin stem is present, and the bob-like structures are there. You can notice the ball-like structures. That is only we used to call as sporangium. Sporangium, we used to say that. So they only contains hundreds of minute spores, okay, which are completely enclosed. Enclosed, that is what we used to call as spore case. So please write it. The protective layer which is present in the surroundings, which we used to call as spore case, and entire this is called as sporangium. So whenever this spore case will start burst, like multiple fission, same thing. So these tiny spores will start, they will be spreading into the air. So now these spores are the asexual reproductive units, which can produce more bread molds, more plants under the suitable conditions. So that is why we can see it was one such airborne spore which grow on the moist slice of bread kept aside for a few days. Just you left it for 2-3 days, it will start automatically growing it. So that is why if you remove one sporangium from the bread mold and if you keep it in a slide, if you want to see the very clearly microscopic slide, so you just place it on the slide and you can put it under a microscope. If you observe that, you can see very clearly how this spore formation will be there. And if you having a suitable conditions, the bursting also we can notice it. So even I used to notice when I'm in 11th class biology when I'm studying. So we have been seeing this. We ourselves will grow this bread mold and we will notice into the microscopic, powerful microscopes we used to see this one. So this spore formation, we can say this rhizopus is the best one. And if you take this, this is also actually it is used by unicellular organisms only. So of course, unicellular organisms is one of the best example for this spore formation, but as well as multicellular organisms also, they will use this reproductive technique. So if you take bacteria, so bacteria will come under what, guys? Unicellular or multicellular? Everybody? Yes, please. So bacteria are the unicellular organisms which will produce us by your spore formation. But if you take multicellular organism, so what is the example? Fungi. So fungi family is the multicellular organism. The best example is Rhizopus, which is a simple multicellular organism which will be grown up by the spore formation. So not only this one. So formation. So you can take this mucor and non-flowering plants, ferns, mosses. These all are called as multicellular organisms only. So please write it. So mucor, and you can take ferns plants and mosses plants. These all are multicellular organisms which will reproduce by this spore formation method only. So nothing simple. What will happen? Whenever the bread, if it is having a suitable conditions like proper amount of moisture and proper temperature, the bread will start, the fungi which is present in the air will settle down and will start growing on it. So it will start forming into the hundreds of spore cells with the help of a protective layer called as spore case. That is what this ball-like structures completely we used to called as sporangium. Now, whenever it is having a well grown up sporangium, so times like if it is having a suitable conditions, so the spore case will start bursting and they will be start dispersing into air. So they are already present in the air. So whenever they will get a food or when they will get a soil which is having a proper amount of moisture or the water, so they will just settle on it and they will start further continuing their spore formation and they will be continue their offsprings. So that is what one of the bread mold is the one of the best example for spore formation, and this diagram is also very, very important. So the thread-like, the fine thread-like projections is only ways to called as what? Hyphae. And the sporangium and the hyphae you can see, which has been connected with the stem. So that is how the bread mold will be there. So you can see through the magnifying glass. For example, if you have taken through the magnifying glass, so how it will be, you can notice it. So you all can have a glance in our biology lab. I think already slides are there also. Bread mold cells also present in our biology lab. So I will show you the slides, you can see. So you all can have a practical experience that will be even very good. So even with the help of this, we will produce even one injection also, the medicine antibiotic injection. So which is very popular one. That is what penicillin. So penicillin is also made up of in the same process. But this is a drug actually, very popular one. You can see antibiotic drug. Antibiotic drug, which is called as penicillin. So which is made from a fungus called as penicillium fungus. So very important drug. So which is also by for spore formation only. So actually, this is actually the spore penicillium fungus, which is also formed by the what guys? Everybody? Forming spores. You can see each one is actually one spore which contains hundreds of spores inside it. You can notice it. So hundreds of spore cells are present in the each spores. So that is what we can say of penicillium fungus also will be reproduced by as asexual reproduction method called as spore formation. Now you can see this is what is our bread mold. We can see at the first it will be looks like a white color, but once it will be well grown, it will be turned up into the black color. So now this one, if you just cut a small piece and if you put on the slides and if you observe through the microscope, powerful microscope, you can notice the structures will be like this. So everything, have you all noticed the black color balls, everybody? All of you please respond. That black color balls only, what we used to call, looks like a black color circles. That is only we used to call as what guys? Sporangiums. Understand? So sporangiums, which contains hundreds of spores inside it. Now, the thread-like projections which you are seeing here, so that is only we used to call as, what we used to say everybody? The stems and as well as the connecting cells. The connecting, you can notice it. They are only we used to call as hyphae. So that is how that looks like. You can see hundreds of spore formations will be there in the one small piece of bread slice. So that is how they will be forming the spore formations and they will be bursted and they will be spreading to the air and again they will be continuing their life. So this is the best example. So one more example for spore formation, you can add what guys? What is the one more example? Penicillium fungus. Okay. So, but this is very important antibiotic drug which we are using. Many people will consume it in our daily life. So please note it what. So this is what is about spore formation. So what is spore formation? They will produce the small microscopic reproductive units. What is that called as everybody? Microscopic reproductive units called as spores. So these spores actually they will be burns. They will spread into the air, and then whenever they will get the favorable conditions, they will start they will start germinating into the new plants. That's all is about what is spore formation. I hope you all understand. Everybody clear? Girls, clear, Amma? All of you? So examples. See, we have just to have a glance. So what is the examples we have studied? At least you need to identify when you see the picture because nowadays they are giving the picture based questions also. So I have taught you the another name of the another example for multicellular organisms. What is that everybody? Mucar. So you can see the mucar, all of you. So mucar, you can notice it. So mucar is also, this is what we can see. One of the non-green plants, the spore formation is the technique which it will be grown up. You can notice it. Similar to the bread mold. Have you checked it, everybody? All of you? So it will form the same thing. Sporangium. Okay. So it will be started bursting. Sporangium inside contains hundreds of spores. So they will be started spreading. So that is what mucor we can say. And you can take fence plants. So if you are in a fence plants, you can notice it. So these fence plants also, they will be start producing actually by this only. So the fence plants, actually they are multicellular organism, but they will form the spores. You can see that how it will be. So they'll produce us like this powder-like substance. You can notice it. This everything is called as what? Sporangium only. So they only will be matured and they'll be spreading to the air and they will be grown up into the new plants. Do you understand, everybody? Please respond, guys. So next one, Moses and fence plants, both are same. So both are similar to that. So you can see Moses plants. So this is what is another one. So this is also will produce the spore formation. You can see that how the spores are formed. So these only they'll be bursted and they'll be spreading to the air and they'll be turn up into the new plants whenever they'll get the suitable conditions. So you can see this how they will be forming. So the sporangiums and all. So that is what is about what is this examples of spore formation and what is the plants will go. Multicellular organisms and unicellular organisms also will source the spore formation. So this is the third technique of asexual reproductive method. The next technique of asexual reproductive method is regeneration. So regeneration is one of the most important technique. So here there is an organism which we already studied under the budding. So that is the best example of regeneration. So under the budding, we have studied one example. Anybody can tell me what is that, guys? All of you? What? Under the budding? Hydra. So under the budding, we have studied Hydra. So this Hydra is one of the example for again regeneration also. So what is regeneration and how it will be happening, we'll study. See, under the budding, we have studied two things. One is Hydra. Next one is what? Anybody? Yeast formation. So now yeast will never be under regeneration, but budding, the Hydra will be forming under the regeneration also. So regeneration means immediately you have to remember the two organisms. One is Hydra and another one is planaria. Okay, guys. So please write it. So immediately you have to remember because examples only the most important one. So regeneration. So let us watch a small video about it and then we'll proceed. So what is regeneration? All of you have a glance. 1 minute.
How to get the most of Grammarly free.
It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you.
Regeneration. The process of getting back a full organism from its body parts is called regeneration. This means that in these organisms, whole new organisms can be reproduced.
See that. So what is regeneration? Just like imagine, of course, the human's multicellular organism does not have this capacity. So you can cut any part of the plant. You can cut any part of the body. Of course, this is animal, simple multicellular animal. So any part of the part, if you cut it and if you leave it for undisturbed, so that the remaining part, the missing part will be automatically grown up. So that is only ways to call as regeneration. The cells which are present in that particular part itself modified into further remaining, turn up into remaining further body. So that is only ways to say regeneration. You can see.
From their cut body parts. Example, planaria is a flatworm which is found in freshwater ponds and slow-moving streams. Planaria possesses great power of regeneration. If the body of planaria somehow gets cut into a number of pieces, then each body part can regenerate into a complete planaria by...
See that. See here head, here tail, but still somehow because of by hitting the rocks or because of some when it is living in the fresh water or small one things. So because of some natural it is actually, it is naturally it will be getting turn up into different pieces, and the particular piece will be turned up into a complete planaria. So the cells which are present themselves, they will start growing into the remaining missing part. So that is what how it will be happening. It is having extremely like a great power of regeneration. If you cut it into 10 parts also, it will be grown up into new planaria.
Growing all the missing parts.
Do you all understand, everybody? All of you, please respond. Okay, guys. So that is what we used to call as regeneration. So the best example for regeneration is hydra and planaria. So you can write, all of you. The process of getting back off, the process of getting back off, the process of getting back off, getting back a full organism from its body parts, is called regeneration. In our surroundings also there is a lizard. Have you all noticed? Lizard tail will cut means it will start growing. Have you checked it, everybody? But head will cut means it will die. But tail will cut means it will start growing or not. Lizards, you might be noticed it. Am I right or wrong? Everybody? So, but our parts, the human beings and all, only particular parts is having this regeneration capacity, like nails, hair and all. But if you take this planaria, any part can be turned up into the new planaria. Hydra also, any part of hydra will be turned up into the new hydra. So that is what it is. Complete body can be grown from the missing part. But ours, we people does not have that capacity. So we cannot generate the missing part. If I cut, suppose if you notice the lizards, reptiles somehow they will show the regeneration. Like a tails mainly, the snake or the lizards, you can see the tail will cut, automatically it will be grown up. Have you all experienced it, anybody? Lizard's tail, am I right? All of you? So whatever you don't know. So if you not notice also, you can try to see sometime. So the tail of a lizard easily can break and again it will be start growing it. So the simple animals is not complex animals, only the simple animals can be grown up. That is what example hydra and as well as planaria is the best example of regeneration. So you can see the whole new organism can be reproduced from the cut body parts. That is only called as regeneration. So complete organism will be forming. So if you take this hydra and planaria, they'll be somehow, they'll get cut into the number of pieces. By natural, they'll be automatically. And then each body part will be turned up into the new organism. So that is only called as regeneration. So if you take in our book also, they have given regeneration of planaria. All of you check it, everyone. So if you check your NCERT, so they have given regeneration of planaria diagram also. You can see all of you. So one planaria will be cutting into 3 different parts. So single complete planaria will be get cut into 3 different pieces. Here you can see. Now finally what is happening? With the help of a asexual method called as regeneration, now each part, the head part is, remaining part is grown up, the middle part is grown up, and the last tail part also grown up. They'll be turning into new 3 planarias. 3 planaria worms are produced. So that is what you have to remember. So now this planaria, let us discuss how it will be. This planaria is a family of flatworms. Please write it. Planaria is a flatworm which is basically found in where, guys? What is the source of planaria, everybody? Fresh water and as well as slow moving streams. So in this, basically we can notice this one, and this planaria is having extremely high power of regeneration. If you cut into 20 parts also, understanding? So each part will be turned up into a new complete planaria by missing parts. So that is what is, that is why we can say greatest power of regeneration. So if you take this planaria worm and automatically somehow by the nature itself, it will be getting cut into 3 pieces. So after a certain time, each cut piece of the body of planaria, it will be grown up into a complete new planaria worm. So that is how the planaria worms are produced from just one planaria grown up into a complete like it will cut into number of pieces. Here itself you can see 3 pieces it has been cut up, and they will be completely grown up into 3 new planaria worms. So that is how it will be happening. But if you take this hydra also same, it will be cutting into number of pieces, then